I was a kid, I thought driving would be easy. You know, green means go, red means stop, red and blue means go as fast as you can and don't get caught. But apparently there's like laws and rules to driving. You need order or something when you're driving heavy metal boxes at 60 miles per hour. But no, seriously, driving for the first time is absolutely terrifying. So in this video, I'm going to take you through my experience with driving and trying to get my license. But first, at least in America, in order to get your driver's license, you first have to take a test to get your permit. You can only drive when there's someone else in the car with an actual driver's license. With your temps, you need to get 50 hours, 40 in the day and 10 at night, which will then make you eligible to take the driver's test to get your actual driver's license. So we'll start off with the test and how horribly that went. Because the test was so stupid, instead of asking me questions about like my knowledge on the rules of the road, it was asking me like, what are the penalties for like driving under the influence, and the most obscure questions possible. Like, what's the penalty if your left earlobe has too many atoms on a Wednesday at noon at 1:03 p.m. when it's raining and you're driving a green Nissan Altima? And it kept having these like alternating AI voices instead of using the same one, which it took more work to use alternating voices than using the same one. Like, what the fuck? But in the end, you needed 30 out of 40 questions right to pass. And guess how many I got right? 30 out of 40. I know, I'm kind of a genius. You know, the modern day Albert Einstein. No need to applause, but please do. So I now had my driver's permit, and I can assure you that it went very unused. I mean, my first driving experience was in a completely empty parking lot with my dad. And if I so much blinked for a millisecond too long, he would freak out. This is pretty much entirely how it went. But the worst was yet to come, because driver's ed class, aka lobotomy simulator, is the worst part about learning how to drive. It's a mandatory class that would go on for every Tuesday for about 5 weeks, and it lasted 5 hours after school ended. I would come into the building at 8 a.m. and leave the building at 8 p.m. I was there for a whole damn 12 hours. And it was hell. We once watched a video entirely about how to pump gas into your car, and it was 10 minutes. It could have been 10 years for all I know. You put your life savings in, you take the gas, you put it in the gas tank, you pull the trigger, you wait for it to stop, you put it back in the little gas place holder thingy-majig. I mean, the main concern was that when taking the gas out, if you touch the nozzle, it will cause an electric shock and will cause the gas to ignite. But there's a handle for a reason. You hold the handle. Like, do you grab a chainsaw by the blade as well? Of course, it's still necessary so that way you actually know the rules of the road and don't kill yourself and everyone around you. But it was still excruciatingly boring. After my mandatory torture and having to retake my driver's permit test because it expired and getting the exact same score, so literally nothing changed, I had to do the real driving on the road with an instructor. I'll call him Mr. Marboro because he loved cigarettes, because I could tell by the way his car smelled and how his teeth looked. So he was going to be victim number 2, and the biggest problem with this is that this was my first time driving on the real road, and it was winter. So that's like ice on the road, and the snow is literally blinding. So I started driving in hard mode. And I started out terribly. In the first 5 minutes of me driving, a squirrel almost got me killed. And one thing you will learn while you're driving is squirrels don't give a fuck. They don't stop because they're frozen in fear or because they have to. They do it because they want to. And then later, I took a turn like way too wide and I hit a curb like it owed me money. So Mr. Marboro's first impressions of me weren't exactly positive. Over time, I did get better. In fact, at one point, he told me to take a turn way too late, and I somehow managed to full-on swerve over into the lane without hitting the curb again. I also learned how to stop properly so that way it doesn't go like every time I stop, but I did not have this driving instructor the entire time, as the last lesson is probably something I'm never gonna forget because of the driving instructor. I'll call her Mrs. Marboro because she also definitely liked to smoke. And everything started off fine, she seemed nice enough, until we got to the highway. Now everyone knows what the highway is, long stretches of road where everyone's like blasting at like 60 miles per hour and above. And this was my first time being on the highway, so reasonably I was pretty scared. And I was going 60 and I was behind someone, and they eventually like braked at some point, I guess to slow down, but I freaked out and kind of over braked, causing me to drop down to like 48, and I sped right back up, but she immediately starts yelling at me because she was convinced that I was literally trying to stop on the highway. You would have to be the stupidest person alive to just full on stop in the middle of the highway. So she's like, what the hell are you doing? You never stop on the highway. You could have killed us. You know, you usually don't want to distract the driver when you're going 70 miles per hour. That's usually the last thing you want to do. Like, if you're so concerned about your life, maybe you shouldn't do that. Then we did parallel parking, and that went about as well as you think it could. Because for 45 minutes straight, she would just yell at me non-stop, causing me to make more mistakes because I was distracted. The whole thing was just like, use your brain, the thing in your head, use it! The thing is that when I did it with Mr. Marboro, he actually got out of the car and showed me where to like cut the wheel. So it's almost like actually having good teaching methods teaches people. I mean, that's a novel concept if I've ever heard of it. And once we got to the parking lot where my mom was, she immediately like did a full 180. It was like, oh wow, he did so great, you know, he just has a few little things to work out. It's like, what do you mean? I thought you were gonna tell me that I was the worst person ever, and if I ever touched a single automobile ever again, the entire world would collapse and explode. So that was the end of my driving instructor stuff, and now I just have to get 50 hours, which I still haven't done. But I will leave you with this. Even though there are rules to the road, people will not always follow them. So thanks for watching, be safe, don't trust squirrels, and you won't find the bodies.